Redditors of Reddit, what's your personal experience of one man's trash is another man's treasure? My roommate was rich and didn't like her mattress pad and thought it was cheap, so she gave it to me and it changed my life. It was a plush foam pad that improved the horrible bed I had to sleep on. I have a memory foam mattress that I love so much that spring mattresses just feel like crap, and I end sleeping for ages whenever I sleep on it after a long trip away. My work had a small reference library. I mean really small, just a little room with some shelves. It was being closed to make space for a server room. Someone sent round an email if anybody wanted a full 12-volume and 5-supplement edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. It took several trips to take it home. I love it. The OED isn't cheap, especially a full set. Even the compact version that came with a magnifying glass, while more accessible, is about $400 new. Found a PSP at a garage sale and they were selling it for $35. PSP just came out like a year ago and I really wanted one. Asked what was wrong with it. Guy said the screen just turned off after playing it for a few hours. Bought it, took it home and put it to charge. It came on with no issues. Everything was working. That's when I realized holy crap, the battery died and he didn't even think it needs to charge. I got a really nice watch doing this. They said it was a solar watch and normally this brand is, but they also make regular quartz movements. I bought it for like $10 at a swap meet and changed the battery. Presto. Then I sold it on eBay for $90. 2. I have one. A family had a sale to get rid of their worldly goods and satanic temptations because they wanted to renew their faith in God. To each their own. No biggie. I did however walk out of that yard sale with a binder of old MTG cards that paid my student loans off and most of my car. Cost me $25 and they refused to take more money. I felt kinda bad, but they were just dead set on removing this kinda stuff. I just hope they didn't have a college-age son who didn't know that their cards were sold for peanuts. No one who ever played Magic would do this, so someone probably lost his collection. Went to garage sale and found a heavy, leather trench coat from Germany. Paid $5 for it. Turns out it's a tank commander's from World War II, tailored by H. Boss. It's currently sitting on loan at the Canadian National War Museum as part of their static panzer display. When my late brother was going through chemo, he coped and occupied his time away from work by dumpster diving. On one of his dives, he found an old wicker umbrella stand out on the curb. He brought it home, and my sister-in-law really wanted him to get rid of it, so he gave it to me. He passed away 16 years ago, and I still have that wicker umbrella stand. It's the last present he ever gave me, and I'll never part with it. It's funny to think that someone was just cleaning out some junk from their home, never realizing that they'd wind up giving me a present that I'll always cherish. Wonderful story. Sorry to hear he passed. As a side note, dumpster diving is kind of a badass hobby for someone with compromised immune system. Years ago my wife and I were moving out of our apartment in a neighborhood with tons of college students. We were young ourselves, and graduating from a futon to a bed in the new place. The futon we were going to toss on moving day had been heavily used for a while. It had stains of all kinds on it, tons of cat hair semi-embedded in it, and was probably twice its original weight due to the skin flakes it had picked up over its 3 years of service. As I was dragging it to the curb, I was approached by a scraggly college kid. He was flabbergasted that I was throwing it out. Hesitatingly, he asked if he could possibly have it. I said yes. He threw it over his shoulder and marched away triumphantly. I've been that kid. Saved me $100. The summer after my senior year I would go around to businesses and take old electronics out of the trash. I would fix them, clean them and sell them. Made a couple grand to help me get through the summer. My entire job. No kidding. I work in building materials salvage and resale. Useful building materials get tossed in the dump by the tons. Daily. I think my company diverted along the lines of 14 million tons last year alone. What does that cover? Really? Anything from the front door to the back. Doors, windows, sinks, toilets, cabinets, lights. We're kinda like a Goodwill for the things you get at Home Depot. We get customers on their way to the dump, and we'll pick out the good stuff so that folks can fix their own houses on the cheap. It's great, and as a veteran dumpster diver, I love it. I work for a construction company, can confirm it's really silly the amount of stuff that gets tossed in the skip because we don't need it anymore. 2 months ago they dumped an entire pallet of door furniture in the skip since that contract has ended and we can't use it on another contract. Boxes and locks, handles, hinges etc. My old car was in great working order but rough around the edges. Was in the process of buying a newer car to replace it. My old man advised me to scrap it, but I kept it around, fixed it up, polished, shined and fettled it until it looked almost new, spent next to nothing to just time. Then when it came to sell it, a family acquaintance inquired about it but could only afford 75% of the asking price as she had gone through 3 cars in 6 months buying them off disreputable people. She was going through a tough time, so I sold it for that reduced price. That was nearly 2 years ago and it's still going strong with no faults or repairs needed. Love seeing it still on the road, especially with a young family. I collect and restore old hand planes for woodworking. Most people just give them to me when they clean out their parents' or grandparents' garage. Most of the time I get them and they look like rusted pieces of garbage, but I can usually get them back looking good as new in a day or two. Hey, same for me. I love restoring old woodworking tools. My favorite to restore is handsaws and planes. In the dumpster of a former church, it had been closed for several years and eventually sold to become a nightclub bar restaurant. I found an authentic Tiffany, signed, stained glass window. It had been removed from the church years ago and stored in a wooden crate to protect it. Apparently, the workers threw it in the dumpster not realizing its beauty and value as a creation of Louis Comfort Tiffany. The workers likely had a no salvage policy that prevents them from dumpster diving without risking their job. It looks trashy to have your employees digging for treasure while cleaning out a customer's site. I live in a very small house in a very rich neighborhood. By comparison, I am basically just trailer trash. These people throw out barely used suede couches worth thousands of dollars and stylized glass tables. Literally got a free working, albeit old, BMW because the guy was too lazy to sell or fix it. All of these rich suckers trashes my treasure. Joke's on you when that BMW needs repairs. A neighbor put a free sign on an Elna sewing machine. Circa 1960s. My husband picked it up, fixed a couple of things, and learned how to sew. Thanks, YouTube. 1 year Cinemark put stickers on their cups, redeemable for 100 American Airlines FF miles. I went through the theaters after movies let out and dug in the trash cans and got enough points for a free trip to Europe. Nice. In my hometown there is a really preppy and expensive college. At the end of the spring semester, before the students went home, most would throw away everything they owned at the school and just fly home with a backpack. These people threw away perfect Xboxes, guitars, games, brand name clothes with tags still on them, furniture, fridges, you name it. I guess it was one man's trash, but these idiots were literally throwing away treasure. My elderly neighbor was throwing out a 1950-era stereo console last summer. I salvaged tons of parts from it and used the parts to build a smoking good guitar amplifier. If it's smoking, it isn't good. This lady on my old block had her husband one day up and leave her and run off to Europe with a younger woman. Then she spiraled out of control and started dating her 19-year-old son's best friend. The son soon too left and never returned. Fast forward a few months and the house fell into foreclosure. On her sheriff eviction day, she put all her son's and husband's belongings outside and the neighborhood got to take whatever they wanted for free. I scored a bunch of euros and assorted coin collection, a bunch of Xbox games, and skis. I exchanged the euros for dollars and made some money, sold the skis online and still have the coins and Xbox games. My dog. She has epilepsy and someone paid a lot of money for her and did a lot of the legwork training her. She had some behavioral problems when I got her, but with a little work, she's an amazing pup. Someone literally left her in a garbage can and she was found, and now she's one of the best dogs I've ever owned. I once was walking down my alley and noticed a bunch of trash bags sitting out of the can. I took a peek in and noticed a Sega Dreamcast. Needless to say, I pulled open that bag and a few of the other ones in and out of the can. All in all, I found a Dreamcast, 4 controllers, a ton of Dreamcast games, bunch of Game Boy Advance games, Bionicles, Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards. 12-year-old me hit the jackpot. I held on to all of that stuff for years. Later, in high school, I found out one of my friends lived in that house that I found all that stuff at. In shock, I told him about how I found all of his stuff. It turned out that he and his family were doing a huge house-wide cleaning session. Tons of stuff was getting thrown away and my buddy was also moving bedrooms. His mom had mixed up a few garbage bags with all his old stuff he had packed up to store away and chucked it all. Then, when they realized the trash had already come the next day. So, I ended up saving all of his stuff from the dump and was able to return all of it to him years later. He let me keep the Dreamcast and the Bionicles though. LOL. So literally, one man's accidental trash was my treasure. Both of those days hold very fond places in my memory. My uncle helped us move some furniture into our house, and he brought his young son. He was checking out a 3-sided engineering ruler. We gave it to him because my husband gets them all the time at career fairs. My cousin was so excited and brought it that weekend to a family reunion and all my other cousins got too stoked and started asking for them. There is something magical about those 3-sided rulers. LOL. I was fascinated by them as a child and always asked my dad to buy me a new one each year for school. My uncle worked at a local recycling area where you would dump bigger pieces of trash, like electronics, furniture, etc. A lot of the furniture devices I used in my first home came either from there or were in some other way ready to be thrown out, like an entire kitchen, living room cupboards, sofas, TVs, lamps, some kitchen utensils, etc. Some things I understood, but with some stuff I couldn't really understand why they would throw it away. Friend of mine stopped an acquaintance from dumping a puppy at the pound, but as she already had several dogs, asked if I wanted to adopt him. Dobby and I have been together for 8 years now and he's the best little butthole dog I could ask for. To think someone was just going to toss him breaks my heart. Every freaking time I go to the thrift store, antique store, I always find something interesting and neat that some other person donated. It's becoming a real addiction, so my instituted a mandatory 1 in, 1 out policy to keep the clutter from getting out of hand. Paging our thrift store hauls. From antique stores I've gotten a canteen from the 70s and 2 gas masks I've seen and wish I'd bought, Soviet crap, lighters, knives, and 3 frickin' scythes. A person I know inherited an old 1991 Taurus show from their late grandfather. It had sat idle for 9 months and wouldn't start, so they planned to scrap it. I matched the scrapper's offer of $100, took it home and replaced the battery, and what do you know? It starts right up. That was my first car and I still drive it. Man, I love that thing. That's one heck of a first car. 2 of my previous roommates loved to toss spoiled food, and by spoiled they mean slightly abnormal. Chicken has a burned spot, spoiled, better toss it. Peanut butter is left open for an hour, spoiled, better toss it. Bread is kinda flattened, spoiled, better toss it. So I used to hang around when they cooked to eat the spoiled food. I used to dumpster dive, wrote about it for In fact, I've found countless video games, steel cases, and even a 60 inches TV in dumpsters that people were just tossing away. Where are the best dumpsters? I want to get rich. My landlord bought this old junky hearse from this guy out in Oregon. Not really abnormal because my landlord has about 20 of them. Thing is, when he got there he immediately recognized that the car wasn't really a hearse but a 59 Cadillac Metro Meter or ambulance. He took it from the guy's place for $3,000 and sold it less than a month later for $50,000 to Sony for some movie they are making. Yes, that movie. I'm thinking Ghostbusters but not sure. Oh man, LPT. Go to your local university at the end of move out day. People leave totally fine stuff everywhere. I moved put of my living area last and scored an awesome desk chair and a TV stand. There were couches and stuff too, but I only took what I needed. The university had all the stuff hauled off a day or 2 later. We call that hippie Christmas where I'm from. My mom bought a granddaughter a small heart necklace from a thrift store because she always asked to either wear the necklace or just look at it, so she bought her one of her own. Got one for $2. The girl never takes it off and it's been 2 years. My GF's ex-husband decided that rather than talk to her, he'd just start spending all his time at work, letting her take care of their son, while he developed a relationship with a coworker. After a while, he admitted the marriage wasn't working, and gave her a list of things she could do to fix it. She did said things, and was then told he never really thought it'd work, so on with the divorce. Whatever, his loss. As a widower, having a second chance with someone truly amazing, caring, and deeply loving is a godsend. Just wish she hadn't had to go through his crap before finding me. I'm my wife's third husband. I made the same comments to her about wishing we had met first. She told me she needed the first 2 ex-husbands to recognize the right one. Years ago, I moved out of town with my best friend at the time. He got into a school far away and didn't want to live on campus. At the time, I worked in a Subway sandwich shop as an assistant manager. We came up with the idea that I'd find another restaurant to work in near the school he got into so that we could move in together, as I knew we'd miss each other like crazy and I had nothing tying me down at the time. After some searching, I found an opening for a management gig at, you guessed it, another Subway sandwich shop right down the street from the school. I applied, got an interview, we found an apartment, packed up a U-Haul truck and hit the road. Not quite as simple as it sounds though. All these things took months to get into place. If you've ever used a U-Haul location before, you've probably seen the little giveaway areas around the storage units. These are small, roped off, indoor areas where you can toss things you don't need or want. Sometimes when you move, you head to a smaller place and realize there's a lot of stuff you can't keep, like big furniture or various decorations. On the day we left, I noticed one of these spots in the U-Haul store for the first time, and in it was a single painting of a buffalo. It was magnificent. I took it without a thought, and we head for our new home. I hung that painting up and couldn't believe someone got rid of it. It's amazing. I stood in awe of how well painted it was, and was wishing I could let the artist know how happy their throwaway made me. It was my first cherished possession. I made sandwiches for a living and had rent to pay at this point, so my bedroom consisted of a twin-sized bed, a 13-inch TV and this buffalo on the wall. No dresser. My clothes were in bags. But dang it, I loved that buffalo. About 7 years later, the buffalo's gone everywhere with me. My friend and I still hang out and visit, although we don't have our bachelor pad anymore. Today, my fiancé and I live in a home together. We both work part-time while we're going to school to become teachers, and the buffalo sits above our mantle, watching our lives unfold. I plan to have that buffalo in my will one day. I'm a huge fan of art, and it's only because someone threw away a brilliant painting and happened to leave it in my walking path. I've still never been able to track down the artist and thank them. The only clue I have is their initials and Spring 14 written on the frame. I'm guessing it was a spawn of one of the local community colleges during their spring 2014 semester. If I ever do track them down, I'll update. Post a pic please. I'd love to see this. A guy was selling an old Xbox One S that was no longer working for $15. He said it wouldn't turn on. I bought it because I thought I knew what could have been wrong with it. I thought it just needed a new power supply brick. I was right. Took it home, bought the part off Amazon for cheap, fixed it, and to this day, still have it. Saved me a heck of a lot of money buying the thing new. Cost about $40 total rather than almost $300 new. My friend's little brother sold me his Xbox One for $50 because he didn't like it. I feel like I got a great deal. Used to work at Tim Hortons in high school and I would take all the donuts home that were going to be thrown away and sell them at school the next day for $1 each. Made decent money doing that. When people complain about being bored because they don't have enough on their to-do list, I think wasted time is some of the best time. Feeling the need to be productive 24/7 must be stressful. Time you enjoy wasting isn't wasted time. Lived across the street from the dumpster in my old apartment. That was so fun. One person moved out and decided they didn't want to take their books. All their books. Most hardback and brand new. How to, history, non-fiction, fiction, etc. I pulled out so many books for myself. My friends and family then loaded up a bunch to take to the library and also set as many as I could around the dumpster for other people take. Also a nice, older KitchenAid mixer with all its accessories that needed a new switch. Brand new Tupperware. Still had stickers on. Decorative baskets. An antique chair. Also, made friends with the raccoons who would get stuck in the dumpster. I'd put in big sticks for them to crawl out on. Good times. Next door neighbor rolled out an old push mower with a rusted through deck for the trash pickup. I had a mower with a good deck, but the engine had seized up. He watched me as I took the engine off his, put the seized up engine back on his deck, rolled it back out to the road, and proceeded to cut my grass with my newly repaired lawn mower. I've made a very nice living for 18 years and counting by making art from old, recycled license plates. My work has financed multiple other businesses as well as allowed me to pursue an acting career, meet presidents and celebrities, and it all started out because I was trying to impress a girl who was an artist. I was at our local town dump, small town in South Lanarkshire, Scotland, getting rid of some old wooden pallets. As I walked past the skip container, they have 4 smaller electrical items. My eye caught something, went over to have a closer look. Yes, that is indeed a classic Casio CZ1000 synthesizer from 1984, sitting there, partly concealed by an old electric lawnmower. Long story short, it was in perfect working order, and I sold it on eBay a week or so later for £100. I had this disgusting preserved paw of some real furry animal lying around my dorm for a couple of semesters and mainly used it as a doorstop and to sometimes maybe gross people out. Anyways, one time the new girlfriend of my roommate was over and her eyes immediately fixated on this goofy half-skeletonized piece of crap. Turns out she was a practicing Wicca witch. She asked if she could pick it up and then started caressing it and sucking on the hairy bones. I was like WTF, and she explained that I had been in possession of one of the last remaining limbs of the great Erdfarkle god who had retreated back into his burrow, Erdschweinhohel many centuries ago. She was certain that it was capable of casting powerful magic. Sure. Don't do drugs, kids. Used to do to the scrapyard between classes in college. I found all sorts of neat things that were thrown out. I found a projector for $2. I use it to watch movies outside by the fire. Found an old signal generator from the 60s that I paid $7 for. Found some flat screen TVs that needed capacitors switched out. I paid $15 for the 55-inch and $12 for the 43-inch. Found a few treadmill motors that I paid $5 each for and sold them on eBay for $40 to $70 each. A company one of my friends worked for was upgrading their desktop computers and selling the old ones off. My friend said he thought they were Intel i7 processors and $25 a piece for the complete desktop. I asked immediately if he could get me to just hook all of them up and boom, workstation. Found a bookshelf sitting on the curb. Rang the owner's doorbell and asked what was wrong with it. Frick if I'm bringing something with woodwork into my house. Oh, nothing, but it doesn't hold my magazines very well. It's a bookshelf. Bookshelf. Shelf for books. No crap, it doesn't hold your magazines. Can I take it? Sure, if you want. But I don't know what use you'll get out of it. I'm sure I'll find something. Thanks. And now I can house my entire Agatha Christie Dorothy Sayers paperback collection all together in a lovely walnut bookshelf. 8 years ago, back when I was just a kid in high school, I was about to start my second army in Warhammer 40k. A guy at one of the local stores had a Land Raider, $70 model, that he fricked up gluing together, so he just gave it to me for free. At that point in my life, the most money I'd ever had of my own to spend was about $30 at a time, saving up $10 a month. So getting a $70 model for free was amazing to me. It especially makes me sad, because now $30 can't even get you a basic troop for most armies. Try some of the newer skirmish games. I highly recommend Infinity, the game by Corvus Belli. It's a skirmish sci-fi game with cyberpunk themes. Most starter boxes are $40 for 7 metal models that will be about half a complete army. Bought an old print in its original frame at a second-hand store for $20. just because I liked it. Later on some research showed that I own an original Arthur Rackham print from the turn of the century. Got my current job as night security after the old guy basically real life rage quit. The time shift was freaking up his life. For me, getting into a proper full-time job with benefits and a living wage instead of just barely above minimum unfucked my life. Best thing to happen to me professionally by far. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.